Hey everybody, come on in. This is Conspiracy Theories and Chill. I'm Sean. We're going to start in just a minute. We had a last minute change. Um, our guest, Roxy Love, had to drop out. She had some last minute things come up, and unfortunately, she had to drop out of the interview. But a friend of mine, Tyler, is good enough to step in for her. So all of those questions that we didn't get to ask Roxy, we're going to ask Tyler. Tyler is also a believer in flat earth and fake outer space and many more things. Tyler has fascinating beliefs and will be a fascinating guest. So come on in, invite your friends, share, get this out. This is Conspiracy Theories and Chill. We're going to start in just a few minutes. I'm just going to give our guest hasn't arrived yet. Tyler is filling in at the last minute. Like I said, Roxy had to cancel. She couldn't make it. So we may line something up in the future and try to make something work. But we're both really busy and our schedules just keep conflicting. And unfortunately, we had the crashing problems with the last feed. But um, just a second, and Tyler should join us. And when he gets here, we'll be able to ask some of your questions. A lot of people were disappointed in the last feed because we got cut off before I really got to ask Roxy any questions. I was letting Roxy put her views forward and, you know, plead her case for the flat earth and why she believes the flat earth, why the earth is flat, why she believes that, why she thinks that. But we didn't get a chance to really get into it. So we're going to try to get into a lot of those things that people wanted asked with Tyler tonight. But let me check with Tyler. I'm going to send him a message on Messenger and see how he's doing. But it looks like he saw the link. But once he clicks on that and comes in, we'll get started with Tyler and ask some of those questions that you guys had for Roxy. It looks like Tyler is arriving right. Yeah, I see you. Hold on, are you ready? I'm going to bring you into the feed. All right. Okay, I messed it up, but here you come. In three, two, one. Now you're live. There you are. So
Nice. What
Tyler,
up, you guys?
Tyler has been good enough to be a last minute replacement for us. We didn't get a chance to ask Roxy a lot of questions. And she was on to talk about the flat earth last week. And she got it all out there. So we got all the information about the flat earth out, but we had some questions that we didn't get to ask her because the feed crashed. So she was going to come on tonight to answer some of those questions, but she had to cancel. So Tyler's stepping in. He's pretty well informed about this stuff. So he was good enough to step in at the last minute and answer some of these questions on Roxy's behalf. So thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to say one thing is that I don't actually know anything. However, I like to research every side of every discussion and then believe none of it. And yeah, I think I could at least tell you what the most popular and convincing arguments I would say for
For the
most of these
flat earth.
questions. Yeah.
Yeah. I figured you'd be a good fit. So he actually has a lot of interesting opinions on a lot of different subjects that we can get into because this is always a audience driven show. So whatever you guys want to talk about, let us know. But I'm going to ask some of those questions. Like she told us why she thinks the Earth is flat, and we got well into that. But why would they tell such a huge lie? Why do you think they would tell such a huge lie like the Earth, like the shape of the Earth is flat?
So at the very least, because of the money, I mean, there's not just the NASA budget, not just like the $57 million a day NASA budget, and like that's just like one country for the International Space Station. Like there's so much money, and then like the whole space fiction industry. I mean, there's so much money, but I think beyond that, it's mostly just about the mind control. If you can just convince a bunch of people the dumbest, stupidest shit ever you could possibly think of, like a floating magic vacuum land, even though it's not even possible, let alone proven. It's just like such an ego trip and such a powerful control. If you can just pretty much start with the dumbest, like most ridiculous thing ever, such as outer space, you can start there, you can go pretty much anywhere. So yeah, I'd say the main thing is mind control, but at the very least because of the money.
So the huge amount of money you think would be incentive enough for the world to hide something like the shape of the earth?
Well, because pretty much everyone, I don't think there's really that many people in on it. Mostly it's just people who are all told the same lie by the same people, and everyone's just kind of perpetuating everyone. Like reality itself is fraudulent, and everyone just kind of buying into the fraud of reality.
So
And
how many people, like, just to kick it around, do you think it would take? Because all of the space agencies of the world agree on the shape of the earth, right?
then they're all like so I would say for each individual space agency, I would say it's like 5% know it's all bullshit, and the rest of them like really are seeing the data on the screens and really thinking that stuff is really in outer space, really light years away.
So you only think a small number of people would actually know that we've never been to outer space?
I think more know that, but I think almost none of them, like I said, 5% tops, understand that outer space itself is fake. That is just a huge mindfuck that most people aren't aware of. Even if
So,
they are aware, they're faking it all.
right. Roxy had mentioned that she believed that outer space was fake as well. And I am a contrarian. I believe that they have lied, massively lied about outer space, and that a lot of it is CGI because they admit that it is. But what do you think about space missions and missions to space? What do you
That's
think's going
that's
on there?
all obvious fraud to me. It seems when I watch a rocket go up, I see that's obviously a blimp or something. That's not a giant metal thing being thrust. Like it just kind of floats up. It seems like a giant firework, a blimp and a firework combined, and then they shoot it off into the sea, and then spend like 1% of the money they took for all that on the firework, and then just pocket the rest and lie.
So they would, okay, so you answered my next question, but what about um, a viewer on the last feed asked, and we didn't get a chance to get to it, asked, there's a person that's offering $5 million reward to anyone that can prove a shorter flight route, because don't they claim that isn't there something to do with flight routes and how there's no flight routes at the bottom of the world, the bottom of the globe? But
Yeah.
this guy's
So
offering 5 million to anyone who can give a shorter route between two places because flat earthers, I guess, claim that you would shoot across if you could.
I'd have to see the exact 2 points, but yeah, that's one of the things. So there's people flying from like southern South Africa, or excuse me, yeah, like so let's just say southern South Africa to like northern Canada, and so you'd think that would just be like a relatively straight shot right into the globe, and you just hook back around. But you end up having to fly like north for that kind of stuff, and there's just so much weird stuff about once you go. The further south you go, the weirder things get, and we would expect there to be just as many flights up in the south. I mean, in the north as the south, if it was really a ball. And it's just nothing like that.
So why do you think that it I looked up that there is no flights down in that lower atmosphere or lower area, and there's also a weird phenomenon where flights will leave radar
Yeah,
in that area.
yeah, that was actually one of the main things when I was very first looking into this that really got to me. You can pull up. I wouldn't be surprised if it was changed now, but you could pull up an app like Flight Radar 24 or something, and then it's a real
But
time
could that be as
calculation.
simple? Could the reason for that be as simple as the protecting that airspace around Antarctica with the, because of that treaty? Roxy mentioned the Antarctic Treaty, and that is a real treaty that has been in place for a long time between many nations.
Yeah,
And maybe it's something to do with some of that, what they're protecting there. Do you think that there's any possibility that they're hiding things in Antarctica? I know Hitler believed that.
yeah, they're definitely hiding something there, and
But what you
the
think it is that they're hiding the reality of the world.
yeah, that there is no South Pole, and you can't. It doesn't. All of our fake maps just kind of all crumble apart at the South Pole because South.
Now, that's interesting too. Go ahead.
So in both models, flat and globular, north is directly above the North Pole, and then south is every direction away from that in both models. And the difference is when you go as the further south you go from the North Pole in the flat model, the it just gets like wider and wider, and the rings around the North Pole, east and west latitudes, just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So the further south you go, just the weirder it gets. So they're at least hiding the fact that it's just all weird once you get down there. And at most, they're hiding some sort of barrier or something. I don't know. They're hiding something.
So Roxy didn't get in that with me, but do you believe in a barrier in a like a dome, a firmament?
Uh, no, I don't know. I would say probably, maybe. I don't know. I don't really believe anything,
Well,
but
I
there is
think that
definitely
if you
evidence
still
for
believe
one.
the same, if you still believe the same that you did before, you believe that we don't understand reality, correct?
Yeah, well, I don't. Yeah, exactly. For all we know, we're just a brain in a jar or something. So I don't want to talk about the barrier when for all.
Right. But for the purposes of this discussion, like if we were just talking in the flat Earth model, like because I was asked if there is a barrier, can we reach outer space, or do you think that's not even a thing? Like, what's stopping us if it's not a thing?
You know what? I would guess that there might be a barrier, but the main thing stopping us from going to outer space is that that's just a complete fabrication. That just is not real at all. We don't know what's up there.
But what would be? Is there anything up there then? Like, if you went straight up, what would happen?
There's some sort of clock up there. I don't know what that stuff is. We don't know. That's the
So
thing.
the sky. That's what the Book of Enoch talks about as a sky clock.
Yeah, the sky
That the
is a
sky
clock.
is a clock.
Yeah, definitely.
But I know then Roxy wasn't either. I understand that you're not religious unless that's changed since the last time
No,
we
I'm definitely
talked.
not religious. I would. I don't
But
believe in God, I guess.
so who would have put this clock in place?
It just maybe it's just naturally occurring. Why could God just be, but a clock couldn't? I just if you're gonna like if things can just be like the God that would be creating this can just be like why can't the clock just be? I don't know. Just seems like an extra unneeded
No,
step
I
to
guess that's true.
po- postulate some sort of God character. When this is already confusing enough, we don't need to start interjecting
Oh yeah,
metaphysics into this.
we're definitely going to try to break your head. We're going to this is a fascinating topic. But what the problem I have with pushback is that I agree that NASA is a fraudulent agency. I agree with you about that. And I agree that a lot of what they're showing us about outer space is fake. Like something I would point to is the Mars rover. I don't believe there's any rover on Mars. Do you?
No, I don't think
I know
Mars
you don't
is
because you don't believe in
meteorological.
outer space, but so you think Mars is just a light.
Yeah, it's just a mysterious light in the sky. It's a little red dot in the sky, and when you zoom in on it, it looks like a cell under a microscope. And that's about what we know. People claim to be able to get like read like radiometric readings from it, and I don't know. That's all suspect to me. they have tools that they didn't build that are saying these results that none of us can verify, not even the people using it. So I don't know. I'm
Right.
suspicious of all that radiometric, radio telescope type stuff. I mean, it
Steve
could.
says this is foolish. I'm out. That's fine, Steve. I think it's in the title that it's kind of a fun show. So I understand. And I understand if you want to get out, but I would appreciate it if any skeptics asked us questions because I want to that's what this was for. Roxy was supposed to come on to give you guys who think it's foolish a chance to point out why it's foolish. And I wanted that to happen. And Tyler's a pretty open minded guy. So he's not actually on here supporting the flat earth. He is a believer in what would you say you believe, Tyler?
Nothing. I believe
Nothing.
nothing.
Like you said in the beginning,
I
you just believe you
yeah.
don't know.
I know absolutely nothing. No, I believe nothing and know even less.
But it was my
So I
hope
don't, I don't know.
that Tyler could represent Roxy and answer some of the questions that you guys would have had.
I can
Because
do
on
my best to
conspiracy theories and
concentrate.
chill,
I can tell you what a
uh,
typical flat earther would say, and I can tell you what I would say, but I don't want to claim that I know anything. And I'm not
right.
even really, not even that much I believe. I have compelling evidence to suspect a lot of things, but I really don't know anything at all.
That's a good point. I feel the same way. I like a Kevin Smith quote that you could pretty much fit what I don't know in the Grand Canyon. You know, I know that there's a lot I don't know, and I don't think I fully understand our reality. And you know, I didn't give her a lot of pushback, but the reason why is one, I was trying to let her express herself and get her views out there, and two, I thought we had more time. But thanks for coming on, and hopefully, like Brett has a question. Can you see that, Tyler?
Why would all the world's scientists lie, though? See, they're not lying. They are absolutely not lying. They were all told the same lie, and they're all feeding off each other's bullshit. Everyone was told the same exact bullshit as a kid, and then now there's just this bizarro lie fantasy world that
So
everyone
you
is
think that
deeply addicted
they
to.
won't conduct their own research or check it out?
They no, not about this stuff. Absolutely not, dude. Like an astronomer to actually take a look, like actually watch, like for example, like there's this one pretty relatively recent Eric Dubay. I think it's called like best flat Earth video. If you can see my air quotes, I think that's actually what it's called. And it
Right.
is really fucking fantastic. And it's just 6 hours of all the best, like all the best shit. I mean, it's just completely mind blowing. He just goes over all of it. And I think the odds of someone who's like got a PhD in astronomy, someone like Dr. Ben, him be able to finish that, it would just be too painful. Like cognitive dissonance would just cause him such physical discomfort. He just could never even watch it now. So he's just
This
locked
does
in for life.
upset people.
They're just locked in for life. They have no. They couldn't accept it if it was true, so they just don't want any part of it because it doesn't matter. It just has to be stupid. And they just got a bunch of people all feeling that same way. And they just,
But
like I said, feed off each other's
now
bullshit.
the thing the thing that made it hard in the Roxy interview was that I know that they've lied. So I wonder if Brett would agree with that NASA has a fraudulent background, that they have a history of telling lies, and also have a history of selling CGI images as real images. That every image that you've ever seen of the Earth is perfectly round, but they admit that that's not the case. But that's not the representation that you've ever seen. Plus, there's land masses that are the wrong sizes. That's true. That's not me being a conspiracy nut.
Yeah, that's just the
And they
open part.
admit that they admit that they made that blue marble picture, that it's CGI. You can look up the guy talking about it. They say they
Well,
have to do it that way because now, do you believe this? That they have to do it because it's such a large image, they can't give you a real picture of the globe. They have to make it from other images.
Well, they should
Does
be
that
able
make,
to
would that,
what?
go ahead. Would that be acceptable to you at all, that they just can't?
Well, they if they were really sending probes off to Mars and stuff, you'd think they could just take a camera, just tape a camera to the back or something, just have it take a picture of the Earth that's spinning in real time as they fly away. I mean, it's just all so ludicrous that there's just nothing like that. There should be there should be several channels, entire television channels devoted to covering the Earth spinning in real time and spinning on watch the sports game from space. We'll zoom in, in and out from the moon, and like you think that kind of stuff all the time, but there's just not one photograph of the fucking Earth from space, not one actual photograph. That is just they can't because it's not a ball. It's just you can't do it. It doesn't work that way. That's what I
And
think.
well, and that is a good point. And I would ask that if Dr. Ben, which I hope one day I'll get a skeptic to come on, and because I would be open to that. Because I would like to know why they don't turn around the Hubble or something or any of these telescopes and they can get a good picture. How can you get a picture of Jupiter, but you can't get a picture of the Earth?
Yeah, right.
I think that's a good question. But even the picture of Jupiter, I question. The one that had the dog in it.
Yeah, yeah. It's pure
It's just,
Martian.
it seems like it
I think it was
sometimes.
Pluto too. Pretty sure it
But
was
I
Pluto.
just think that it's the lying that gives it credence. If there wasn't any lying, then it wouldn't stand up. But it does because, like I said, it's hard to push back with scientific data because, like he was saying, the scientism is real. You can't question certain things at all.
Yeah,
Like I
yeah. You
don't
can't.
believe in the moon landing,
Yeah,
for example.
what I
Go
would
ahead.
ask is why exactly do you believe in outer space even?
Well, I guess because even though I'm a contrarian and I believe that we are lied to on a massive scale, I do, that is so big. That is such a big
Yeah, I
lie,
know, right?
and
And that's just the
it
beginning.
is. It is, but I think it'd be so hard to hide. And you could say,
And
well,
they're
they've
not hiding
closed
it.
off
They're rubbing our
Antarctica.
face.
Well, how would you say they rub it in our face, though?
Just like how for example, so I can show you some examples. There's this one YouTube channel called Bling Bling and the BS of the ISS. And that whole channel is just breaking down all the just complete they just mess up so often. They'll just like drop a bolt, like just like tink, drop a bolt in space. Or like there'll be a reflection of like a some people wearing creepy masks in an iPad, just like stuff like that. And you think, why would they not just reshoot it? Like shit, we dropped a bolt. We're supposed to be in outer space. What the fuck, you guys? We need to try. You can't we like retake, cut, film it, but they just release it
Well,
anyways.
and there was
Which
problems with the moon footage like that. And a lot of people that will at least admit that maybe the footage was fake, there's a lot that will come that far with you now. Used to be they wouldn't even allow that, but there's some people now that will acknowledge that there's probably or a good probability that some of that footage is fake. There's evidence of wire work. There's like what you were saying. There's stuff like that in the moon footage. So and he's right about the ISS footage. I look at all this stuff, and it is true. They have been caught using green screen. NASA has. It's been exposed. So if you're doing practices like that, you have to wonder why. And why, if you have a live stream from the ISS, why would there be mistakes? Unless you can't stream, unless there's some other reason, a technology limitation. But he's not wrong about them faking certain things. So Brett asks why they would, why though? And and like he said, his theory is money. But a lot of people, Roxy wasn't a religious flat earther either, but a lot of the religious flat earthers believe it's to hide God.
But
And I was
maybe.
trying to push Tyler there, but Tyler doesn't believe in that there even has to be a creator to this.
Yeah, I would say even if there is, even if we were intelligently designed, that wouldn't necessarily prove a god. Even if it was proven that we were intelligently designed, which it arguably is. But even if that was for sure proven, that wouldn't prove there was a god in my mind.
Jeff has a question. How would flat earthers explain a full solar eclipse?
So a lunar eclipse is when the moon is covered. That's like when the shadow of the ball Earth is supposedly on the moon, and a solar
Mm-hmm.
eclipse is when the the moon covers the sun. And
Right.
how we can know that that's not the moon covering the sun is because we would see the whole moon approaching and then covering and then leaving the moon. But we don't see that at all. And there's a lot of reasons that we can know it isn't what they say it is, for sure. And that's another one of those things, like, I don't know exactly what it is, but what I do know is what they're telling us is just obviously wrong.
There's a comment that I can't show you because it's in the watch party that I'm hosting, but Connor says the Hubble is for deep space. That's why they can't turn it around. So it's to take pictures of deep space. Wouldn't you
Yeah,
think? But I would
that
ask
sounds
why they
reasonable.
don't put one out to take pictures of the Earth. Because, like what Tyler said, is interesting, and that would be fascinating. Wouldn't you tune into that channel? I would watch that channel.
Yeah, right?
24 hours of the Earth. I would watch that all day. You could charge pay per view. You could make more money. Why wouldn't they
Put
do it?
advertising everywhere. Ads on everything, commercials every
Budweiser
fucking
would
10
jump at that
minutes.
in half a second.
Yeah, why would they not do that? It just doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. That makes a lot. That's a good question. And I would want to know something like that. I have those type of questions. But like you asked me, it's just there's some lies like um I would say the lizard people, the David Icke theory about lizard people would be another that I think would be really hard to hide, you know? Do you think what do you think of that one?
So I don't believe anything, and I don't believe in lizard people. However, I have been hoarding evidence of these those little, like these slit eye freaks. I don't know what they are. There's something weird with the slit eye. It seems like some sort of demonic or extra dimensional possession, and I don't know what it is, but I have been hoarding evidence of it for a very long time.
So just to be
And I
fair,
I don't think it can all be fake. So I don't know what to think about that one.
what he's talking about, I've seen that and there's a lot of images and pictures of people with slit eyes. And then something else that's fascinating, this is a little off topic, but Mark Zuckerberg looks like an alien. He
Yeah, he
looks like
looks
he's
weird.
from a different planet. There are certain people, like Men in Black made fun of that there are certain people that have otherworldly characteristics. But, and it could be just that. It could be a weird phenomenon, but I've seen what you're talking about, like the shape shifting eyes.
One time when I was a kid, like in high school, I was watching and I saw one in real life. The dude's name was David Tice. He was like talking about economics on CNN. And I saw him go full slit eye, and I was like kind of speechless. And it really stuck with me. I did not know how to process what I saw. And I've been able to find that clip later as an adult. Look, just type in David Tice shapeshifting reptilian, that same clip, and then ever since then, it's just kind of been on my radar a bit because I saw something
You
that
know,
I thought
something that
was
is mainstream that would actually tie all this together and explain all of it is the simulation theory.
yeah, maybe that would
Elon
that could be.
Musk claims that there's a 1 in a billion chance that we don't live in a simulation.
Yeah,
Isn't
he
that
probably
crazy?
knows if we do. He probably knows we do or not.
He thinks that there's a 1 in a billion chance that we don't. And in that reality, we wouldn't really understand anything about our world.
Yeah, right.
But what I think's crazy about that is a mainstream idea. He's not treated like he's stupid for saying that. And I think
Yeah,
that's what you're saying is we don't understand our reality.
at all. And
Am I wrong? Go ahead.
the crazy part is the more you learn, the less you know. And then it's like trying to like take a big firm grasp of smoke or something. It's like the harder you try to get your hands and mind around reality, the more you learn, the less you know, and it just drives you mad in a really fun and exciting way. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to unlearn now. I just don't know
Well,
anything. Don't believe anything.
for the skeptics out there, what would you say the biggest proof of a flat earth would be for you?
How all measurement tools agree with all other measurement tools, and they also agree with all of our senses that the Earth is flat and motionless.
So
So,
what
like,
tool would you point to that would say that?
we could use laser levels. We could use bubble levels. I think one of the most convincing ones is the ones where you use just frozen water over a lake or like a salt flat, and you can just see things. You can just like hold a mirror over a salt flat and see the mirror from like 10 miles away, even. And it's maybe not 10, but you just obviously you can see the bottom of things really far away, which is just impossible if you lived on a ball. So it's just, yeah,
So she
all
kind of
measure.
said the same thing, the lack of demonstrable curvature.
Yeah, you can prove it and measure it flat, but you can't measure the slightest bit of curve whatsoever.
Now,
And
is there anyone here that has any challenge for that? Like Brett or Jeff, are you still here with us? Or Josh, you said you are NASA. Josh says he is NASA. So NASA themselves is here. Anybody want to give any pushback to that? Why can't you demonstrate curvature if we're on a ball?
just
Or
measure
would you
some.
say that we can? Like I had trouble finding that. Brett says sounds like a lot of arguments from personal incredulity to me, to be honest. I can't figure out how that could be true, therefore it's false. So, um, but back to what I was saying, does anybody out there know if curvature can be measured? Like I was trying to find out if surveyors use it, if surveyors take it into consideration, because I watched the video, not the one that you just mentioned earlier, but I've seen an Eric Dubé video where he has 200 proofs. And one of the things he says in that video is that engineers and surveyors don't take curvature into account.
And there is uh, a way you can kind of bullshit yourself into like, what is it? Geodesic surveying. There's a way you can kind of like reverse engineer the globe kind of stuff, like assume curve to make the math work, and then be like, oh look, the math works.
So
So the
there
thing
is
we
a type of
assumed,
surveying that they do
yeah,
that,
kinda.
but they
But
claim it shows the curvature.
if you start by assuming the curvature, there's a way you can manipulate the numbers so that it actually checks out. So if you're going to, you can do a type of surveying that assumes curve and have it work out. Yeah, I'll admit that. But there's also one thing I want to point out. So there's this thing, if you lived on a ball and on spheres, there's this thing called spherical excess, where like if you were to draw a triangle, all the corners wouldn't exactly add up to be 180 because they would all be like wider. Can you see my hand? 1 second. Like wider
Now I
angles, you
can,
know?
yeah.
And so there's this thing called spherical excess where if you're on a ball, there's more surface area in a certain, because you know everything can be broken up into smaller and smaller triangles, and each
Hmm.
triangle has a larger amount. And so what you would think, so the reason I'm talking about this, is in real estate, they calculate square footage of real estate plots to like the inch, like exactly. And also at the same time, there are these 100 square mile real estate plots with no accounting for spherical excess at all. And just the whole lie of it falls apart right there. That these people care so much about their property as to calculate the square inches of their property. But then they wouldn't even consider spherical excess, and everyone would be like, there would be disputes all the time over multiple people claiming the same spot because there would be, like I said, the angles don't add up to exactly 180 on a ball like they do on a flat plane. And so there should be more area if we lived on a ball for each spot. And there isn't. And it all falls apart there too. It falls apart every way you split it. It's all just fake.
And what is making the entire scientific community go along with it? I know you said a lot of them don't think they are, but if I'm a scientist, wouldn't I ever question it? Wouldn't I ever go, well, let me make sure this works,
And
or let me make sure this adds up?
even if you did, which you have no motivation to, first off, so why would you even start going that? Because even if you do find out you're wrong, who are you going to tell? What are you going to do about that? So there's very little motivation to actually do that. You have everything to lose and nothing to gain.
Has
Even going
anyone
down.
ever, like a mainstream scientist, ever tried to blow the whistle on this?
Well, if they did, they'd probably just be dead and we wouldn't know about them.
So they would just be silenced, you think,
Yeah.
if one
And
found out?
there was this dude from Balls Out Physics that used to be called
Mm-hmm.
Brian something, I believe. He was great. I loved his show. And he just kind of flipped off, and as far as I understand, he hasn't been found, and everyone's kind of worried about him. Seems like that kind of happens. People just go missing and stuff.
Well, I know in other industries that's true. Like in there is a scientism that exists. Like in the vaccine industry, your funding will be pulled and stuff if you
Yeah.
try to explore areas that they don't want you to explore. Or with 5G, any scientists, they're not being funded to research that. So they do use money to focus what they want discovered and what they don't want discovered.
Yeah, right.
But it would take a lot of money to convince people to live, or to not to convince them to live in a lie, but to build this lie, wouldn't it?
Well, it's already built. Now people are just being born into it and kind of just going along with it.
So you're
Yeah, it
just
would be hard.
accepting what you're told.
Yeah, but before the printing press, it was pretty easy to fake anything, especially before like TV and radio. Like people just got a letter from a dude on a horseback, like this is from so and so, this is true, and then people would read it and be like, yeah, look at this and that happened, and just totally believe it. It was that easy.
But
Only
now,
recently,
though, wouldn't it be really hard, though?
yeah, but now it's kind of too late because everyone's just they were quick about it, got everyone brainwashed ahead of time, and now you just can't really question it. You're likely to be committed. Not only are you going to get fired and lose your pensions, you're likely to be straight up committed to like a mental institution, forcibly committed to a mental institution. If you were like a prestigious physicist who went out as a flat earther, they'd have to paint you as a loon. Like they just can't let that kind of stuff happen. So it's not surprising to me that these people who have no motivation, no real motivation, everything to lose, nothing to gain, that they would not even talk about it, even if they did find out. And I think most of them, almost none of them, get to find out because they don't want to find out.
Yeah. I mean, willful ignorance is going to be part of it in the big scale, but I don't know. I think I lean more towards we don't understand our reality. And I honestly think you do too. I know you were on here doing me a favor and representing the flat earth side, but, and I appreciate you doing that. I think you did a good job. I hope that people got their questions answered. Any question that you don't feel was answered, please let me know. And Tyler will be good enough to answer it. He is pretty familiar with the beliefs, even though you've moved on, haven't you?
Yeah, pretty much just I've got this weird thing now where it feels like if I have one false belief, if I let even one false belief into my head, that's going to taint my entire web of understandings. And I think I finally got a pretty clean shop upstairs, so to speak. No lies, because I believe nothing. I finally got it clean. So I'm being very, very careful to not believe anything, or else it's going to get tainted.
So, what would you say your philosophy is then on reality?
That I don't know, and believe nothing, question everything, and nothing would surprise me whatsoever.
So, do you just cherish the present, like the present moment?
Yeah, the present, and I've got suspicions about what is or isn't, but I don't really have beliefs. Like I could say many people believe X for this and that reason, and many people believe Y for this, that, and this reason, and many people believe Z for this, that, and this reason. And I would say that this, if forced to guess, but ultimately I really don't know, and I don't know what to believe.
I actually think that I can't disagree with being that way because I feel the kind of the same way. I just feel like we don't fully understand reality. I feel like we
Anything.
don't I feel like we don't understand our existence even. And I think that most of the scientists that are honest admit that they don't fully understand everything. Like I mentioned, Elon Musk saying there's a 1 in a billion chance that we don't live in a computer simulation. Why isn't that crazier than the earth being flat? You know, we're a
Yeah,
video game.
or maybe this is like a collective lucid dream. That's kind of where I'm feeling.
I've
It's
heard you
like a
say that
simulation.
before.
That's kind of what I'm getting, the vibe I'm getting, and what I'm seeing more and more.
That
The
reminds me
evidence.
of a Fiona Apple song line where she says it's all in your head, but so's everything. You know what I mean? It's just your reality and your existence is the way you perceive it. And you're
Yeah,
perceiving it with what the senses you have and the knowledge that you have. And if you were lived 100 years ago, the things that we have would look like magic to you, you know? So, but we do live in an interesting time and we do live in the age of information. So I don't know. I just feel like people are willfully ignorant, but it's really hard to hide things on a grand scale sometimes, even though they have hidden massive things.
to me, it seems that they're not hiding anything, that they're rubbing it all in our faces to mock us. So I'm not really getting the. It would be so hard to hide things.
That is one of the beliefs of the Illuminati, for example, to put everything in plain sight. You know,
Yeah,
do you see what Robert said?
yeah, yeah. Because I got up today at 4:30 in the morning, and I was actually just about to go to bed when I was asked if I wanted to do this tonight, and I'm like, yeah, screw it, why not?
He was good enough to fill in. Our guest dropped out at the last minute, but we can talk about anything you guys want, except neither one of us is going to do that, Robert. You can put that fantasy aside. I know you've been wanting to see for a long time, but you can put that fantasy aside for now, sir, anyway. Not on Facebook, YouTube, maybe a private YouTube feed. We'll save that for a special occasion. But let's see. Does anybody have anything that they want to ask or any other conspiracy you'd want to bring up or get into? So let us know in the comments. Tyler, what would you like to talk about? Somebody told me that they felt like there was a lot left out of the Tartaria episode that you did, the last episode you did on the
Dude, that
show.
one is such a mind fuck. Dude, that one, that's part of the whole, like, that one really fucked with my head. I don't know what to think about that one. It's just, We don't know anything, man. It's so much more wild than I could have possibly imagined.
There is a lot
That
of hidden history. I admit that.
Yeah, and the whole Tartaria thing, it made me realize that one of the other ways they quote unquote hide it, is by having the truth just be so outrageously wild that it's literally beyond imagination. That truth is literally beyond your wildest imagination. So it could be right in front of your face, told to your face, and you just wouldn't even be able to perceive it because it's not something your mind is able to fathom, literally.
For those of you that are watching that aren't familiar with what we're talking about when we mention Tartaria, it is a lot of these ancient structures and things. People believe they were here long ago. It's a fascinating theory, and Tyler was on to talk about it before, and we had a lot of questions. So I'm hoping he'll come back in the future to talk about that or other things because, it kind of bums me out to see that you have no firm belief anymore. So you're like, you can't be pushed or messed with. That's one of the things that's got to be great about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling pretty good about life in general. So,
So you just pretty much focus on what you can affect.
yeah, what I can affect, and I am trying, I'm still bent on trying to learn everything. The more you learn, the less you know. So it feels like I just need to keep trying to learn everything. And
One
then,
more thing I wanted to ask you that I just saw in my notes that I wanted to ask Roxy is if the Earth was flat and you could show the people that and present
we
that as
can,
truth, what would it do? What would it change?
it would, I think it would change literally everything. It'd be the most beautiful, amazing thing that could ever happen. Mostly people would stop worshiping the government and mainstream science as if it's some sort of religion, essentially. People are statists and they're scientismists. And that's being a huge problem that's really messing stuff up. So,
And I agree that it's bad to have things that can't be questioned. You know, that keeps you from ever growing and ever realizing things about our reality. Like you got to imagine the first person that invented the telephone, Eddie Griffin has a bit about this. He had to have been crazy. Like, I want to talk to somebody ain't even here, you know?
yeah, right?
But now it's common. You're used to it. But it would have been magic then, 100 years ago. And so I think there's things that the government has and technology that exists that would blow us away.
Yeah. Oh, quite literally. You
And
know,
I think there's a lot we don't know.
yeah, and it kind of seems to me like the last reset. It seems to me the last reset, because the whole Tartaria thing is that there was a old civilization that was somehow reset, perhaps as early as or as recently as like the early 1800s, like 1812.
So what do you mean reset?
Like something happened. Everyone died, or got killed, or something, and they reset everyone. All the adults died, and they brainwashed all the children. Flipped the entire script in one generation. There was some
So
sort
these
of
buildings were built, this society
cataclysm.
was made, and then they were wiped out.
Yeah, something happened. We don't know. That's the thing. We have no idea. What I'm now very convinced of, nah, I would maybe even go as far as a belief. What I believe, even, is
Uh
that
oh.
all the state capitol buildings here in the United States
Yeah.
were already here when "quote unquote" Christopher Columbus landed, and that's why they are the state capitol buildings, because they were just these magnificent steel and or not steel, like marble and concrete and sandstone, just these elaborate domes, and they were just literally made too well to even destroy. So like, I guess this is the capital of Rhode Island. Yeah, that's why it's small and deserves its own state capitol building. And then you just make a state around the Rhode Island State Capitol building, and then all of a sudden, hey, this has got a story. All of a sudden, this ridiculous state capitol building in the middle of nowhere. And yeah,
So, and I got to admit that I did a candlelight vigil for Seth Rich at the state capitol at Jeff City, and when I was driving up to it, it looked foreign. Now, you could say that's because everything around it doesn't look like it, but why is that? Why does it look like it was built hundreds of years before everything around it, even the oldest structures?
because it
It
was
looks
built.
weird.
It seems pretty obviously built way before. Just like the
It does
idea that
stick
they
out like a
got,
sore thumb.
and just the story on so many of those state capitol buildings are just absurd. Like especially DC is one of the biggest ones. They say that there's this like cast iron dome that weighs like 70 tons, like in a marble and sandstone built in 1700s by settlers with wagons, 100 years before electricity. It's just like, get the fuck out of here. How dumb do you think we are? That just obviously is not what happened. It's just,
Honestly, they think we're pretty dumb.
yeah, they think we're completely retarded. Absolutely, completely, like, chemically lobotomized. They think that we're that dumb. It's just,
I
and
can't
like,
disagree with that.
they they just are so good at the gaslighting. It's like this blatantly impossible thing happened, and then just like if someone says something impossible happened, you don't need to go into like if it did or didn't. Like it obviously didn't. If it's not even possible, in order for something to be potentially true, it needs to at least be potentially possible. So when people tell you that settlers with wagons cut and carved marble and sandstone, and there's like a whole like city underneath DC too. It's
That's true.
ridiculous.
I covered that in a recent episode on
Yeah, settlers with wagons, all built by settlers with wagons. Just preposterous. There's just no
Robert
way.
wants to know, and I have wondered this myself during the feed. There is some weird papers on the wall behind you. Is that one of those theory guy walls? Is
Uh,
there notes on the wall for a master plan?
Here, maybe I can show you guys. It's just some weird stuff that's been there for a while. Let's see if I can show you guys. I got a old picture. I got a. I guess I can't see. Oh, there it is. I got one of my a lucky bill from Gandhi from
What kind of
India.
money is that?
It's an Indian rupee or something like that. It's just Gandhi's one of my favorites. I got that. I got uh this one. I like to see that every day and think about that. That's like my. That's a nice way to live.
That's
I
cool.
got I got some more weird stuff, and
So
yeah,
it's stuff that helps you to be a better person, like motivational stuff.
yeah,
That's good. You got to work on your mind. You got to keep your mind right.
yeah.
Whatever
I
helps
had
keep you forward. I think Robert wanted it to be like on you know, how in conspiracy movies, you got like the big wall of investigation with
oh
red
no,
yarn tying everything together. And
no, definitely
that's what
not.
Robert wanted it to be.
No, just some stuff I want to think about every day.
Now, this is a conspiracy theory show, and we'll get into any conspiracy on here. I mentioned Seth. What do you think about Seth Rich? Did you know about that?
He was probably killed. Seems like it was. He was obviously killed by people wanting, like, pretty much the Clinton crime cabal. I guess I don't know. It seems. I don't know. That's what it seems obvious.
It
The
was
whole.
very weird, right? A
Yeah,
robbery where nothing was stolen.
yeah. That's fake.
And you know, Julian came as close as he's ever come to admitting that Seth was the leaker. I feel he
Yeah.
retweeted certain things. He doesn't tell his sources, but he retweeted certain things, and he gave. Didn't he give a reward at one point?
I'm not sure. I don't remember
I
that
thought
part.
he did. I thought he gave a reward for information, but
I thought I had a framed picture on the wall behind me. I really wanted to show you guys, and I guess it's not there. I wonder what happened to it. That's weird. I guess I lost a picture.
Clinton asks, "Have you seen the video of his family then announcing him as the leaker?" denounce. Yeah, I have. The family,
No, I
they
have
were
not seen that.
represented by a DNC lawyer, and they came out and said that they didn't want his death investigated, and they didn't want any of that stuff, and they didn't think he was the leaker. And I still do. I still believe that Seth was the DNC leaker. I believe they just don't want to think their son was murdered by the DNC. You
I
know?
don't know why that would be surprising.
And then Brett said about the buildings that wouldn't they have had the same building tech before that though? That makes no sense. So he thinks that they would have been able to construct that in wagon times.
Well, if we
I think it
can't,
would
it's
be
not
hard
that.
though. How do you lift something that's 70 tons with horses? I
So
guess
now
leverage, right?
when we cut marble and nowadays, you need diamond chipped drill bits and pressure sprayer sediment blasters, crazy stuff to even do it at all. Like it's to rebuild something now, like the state capitol building, like the Washington State Capitol building. That it's not that it would be prohibitively expensive. It's literally impossible. We can't do that now. So obviously it wasn't settlers with wagons in the 1700s. This I don't see why this is so hard to get through to people. It's we're
I think
told
it's a
something
fascinating topic.
obviously impossible. So I don't know. It's just that one just
Love
seems.
to look at how they say they did that. What?
Would you say who I think did it? Built
No,
actually
I
built
would
that?
like to see how they say they built it. I would like
And
to
that's the
look that
thing too.
up.
Is like when you look up, so like you'll go to like Washington DC tourism.org or something like that. Like how was it built? And they'll try to like explain it, and they'll just show you it looks like a little CGI Lego box, and they will just like have the building essentially like grow in Lego blocks out of the ground. It's like no, like where was the stone quarried? How was it cut? Who hauled it? How was it hoisted? What kind of scaffolding did they use? Where did they cut down the trees for the scaffolding? Just those kind of questions, they just won't even touch any of that kind of stuff. They won't even try. It's ridiculous.
So
The
there
story
is a
just
lot of interesting stuff that Tyler is into, and I want to have you back on sometime.
yeah, that Tartaria stuff is crazy, man.
That video's got a lot of questions on it. A
Dude,
lot of
I've got a
people.
lot of questions. That one is that stuff is still messes with my mind. That one still gives me cognitive dissonance because I can't I don't know that that one is just a lot. That one is I'd almost like forgotten about it. It's like almost traumatic, just like that history was maybe reset. So if history was reset in the 1800s, then what about like ancient Greece and ancient Rome? What about Alexander the Great? What about Napoleon? Maybe all that's bullshit. That's kind of what it seems like. That they just made up all that shit from scratch, just straight reset everything. They didn't want us to know anything about the Tartarians, anything about who those people that got there. So in the Reformation, they just killed all the adults and all the teachers, brainwashed all the kids, and burnt the books, and just reset history from scratch by fucking murder. My uh, researching Facebook account is Tyler Tartaria Genocide of Memories. That's exactly what it is. Just like how you can commit ethnic cleansing about on people, certain groups of people, you can target specific memories and just kill every motherfucker who knows something, and then that's it. You can flip the whole script in one generation. Well, you still there, Sean? Hey, can anyone hear me? Seems like I lost you. Hello? Hopefully he calls back and you can put the clips together or something. Seems like you're gone.